good morning, Michelle. I was very pleased to have you with us this morning. As Head of Service Management Training at Sysop, we're looking forward to hearing your expertise. So I can't resist but ask, but what is so good about ITIL version 3?
Well, we get asked this question quite a lot, Lisa, because the fact of the matter is people have been used to version 2, they've seen it, they've got lots of experience of it, and it's really become embedded within organisations. So quite often people say, well, why would I want to move? This stuff's working quite well for me now. The reality is that within version 3, we're seeing a lot more about the whole life cycle of managing services. And the fact of the matter was, it was there at version 2. There were 6 core books at version 2, but we chose just to focus on the 2 major elements, which were support and delivery. Now, what we've done with version 3 is essentially taken those books and said, okay, we have to use all of the elements. And the creation of these 5 core volumes means that we're actually looking at a cradle-to-grave approach for managing IT services. We're focused on defining a strategy, designing services, not just boxes and wires, transitioning those services effectively, operating them day to day in an operations type environment, and then thinking about service improvement activity. So it's all about this keeping moving, consistently making sure that we're doing a good job, asking the right questions of our customers, and making sure that we're aligning the IT services to the business services. So the reality is, why is it so great? Because it looks at a life cycle. It doesn't just focus on operating IT day to day.
So not just keeping the lights on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is all about improvement, it's all about defining strategy, and it's about creating great services, not just applications, not just IT systems. And ultimately, that's what's important to customers.
Well, absolutely. I imagine that those come and do great things for the bottom line.
They do. It's all about really understanding the detail of what the business is trying to deliver, what its strategy is, its vision is, its objectives, and essentially being able to mirror that by delivering IT services that support those business processes.
Yeah, excellent. So with that in mind then, what are the top 3 things that someone should know when they look at, how to be successful in IT service management?
Well, one of the things we always say to people is, you don't implement ITIL. What you implement is good practice service management. And the reality is, that's all about saying, who are my customers? What do they want? It's about engaging with them and talking in the right language. And it's about saying, how much are they willing to pay for these services? Well, you only start to understand that when you start to consider how customers see value in terms of IT, what value really means to them, where they're willing to pay for the services. And they're only going to be willing to pay if they can see some value in it. So what are the great things about service management? What are the things we should know about it? Understand your customers, understand where they see the value, and make sure that you apply this in a very pragmatic way. ITIL's not a methodology, it's a framework that says these are some good things to do. Take them, apply them within your organisation, and create your own best practice.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure people will listen to that and think, well, that sounds great. It sounds a bit big to chew. Where should somebody start if they want to look at ITIL?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the processes and the functions within ITIL, you're talking about sort of 26 processes, 4 functions. In a smaller organisation, you might say, how can I practically apply that? Do I need to do that? And one of the criticisms that version 3 had, it was like jobs for the boys. There was all these new roles that appeared from out of nowhere. And, for a smaller organisation, that's really intimidating. But we said this is a framework. It isn't a methodology. It's not intended to be prescriptive. So take the bits where you're going to see some immediate value. Typically, when I'm asked that question, for most organisations, I say, look at the things that you can do quite quickly, the quick wins. Focus on operations where customers see value. Look at things like an effective service desk, a great incident management process, effective change management, and also consider things like service level management. Understand what your customers want from the services. Understand what you can deliver as a service provider. Bridge the gap between perception and reality. So that's typically where I'd start.
Yeah. And so, would that advice work for any area and for anybody?
Absolutely. I work with some very small organisations and some huge multinationals, public and private sector, and they always assume that their issues are very particular to them. You know, and the reality is that's not true. We all have the same issues. Yes, we haven't all got huge IT organisations, loads of resources, lots of IT systems, but we all have the same sort of problems. So, yes, you can apply this very practically in any organisation. It's just about understanding which bits you're going to need. Think about your current capability. Think about how many people you've got, and start to break it down so that you can choose the bits of ITIL and the framework and the elements that are going to be, you know, most suitable for you, essentially. That's fairly simple to do once you sit down and look at what you've got and look at the guidance that's available to you.
Excellent. So, how much experience does somebody need to actually become an expert?
Well, we talk about experts, ITIL experts, and you know, gradually we're starting to see more and more people wanting this qualification. In terms of the qualification route for version 3, it's quite comprehensive. What we expect is to see people going to a foundation level to start off with, and then moving forward, maybe choosing elements of the intermediate scheme of qualifications where it applies more practically with the job that they do. So there's a couple of different routes. You can look at what we call life cycle, where you're looking at the core volumes, and we tend to think that this is most applicable to people who manage teams. So there's qualifications in service strategy, service design, transition, operations and continual service improvement. Over to the other end of the spectrum, we've got what we call the capabilities, which are very aligned to the version 2 practitioner courses. And here you're talking about the practical application of some of these elements. So some examples, we've got release control and validation, which is about transition. We've got operational support and analysis, which is about service operations. So what we say to people is choose elements of the qualifications that will meet your needs. But to get to expert level and to be able to get the little badge that says I am a qualified ITIL expert, you need to gather points. There's a points system. And as you go through that life cycle, you can take various points so that you get to the level where you have 17 points. And then you take a qualification called Managing Across the Life Cycle, which takes you up to become a certified ITIL expert. But that's the qualification structure. The reality is, you know, you become an expert when you start to use this great stuff that you've learned within your work environment. I think that's the important point.
Yes, I agree. And to start on that road for qualification, can you think of any tips for success as they, you know, come to sit those examinations for the various levels?
Yes, I mean, they are a little bit of an art because what we're talking about, of course, here is, you know, what we call multiple choice. Some call it multiple guess. But, yeah, absolutely. It's a difficult one. And I think it's quite alien to us because we've been used to a scheme which allows us to sit down and write exam questions and be able to, you know, demonstrate knowledge in context. With the new qualifications, it's all multiple choice. And it's complex multiple choice. So you're expected to understand, you know, what the guidance tells you, but also to be able to apply it within a particular scenario-based environment. So I think it's about combining the great practice that you get that's written within the books, but also thinking about how you apply it practically in the workplace, using your own, you know, knowledge, the things that you've learnt over a period of time. And I think that's what helps you to be successful within the examinations, not just being able to recite something parrot fashion, but be able to apply it within a particular context, in a situation that you're used to or have worked within. So I think that's the important point. Think about it in context. It's not about learning by rote anymore.
I think that's an excellent tip. So, what sort of things can people do to stay on top? They take the ITIL framework, they take it back to work, they start applying some of this. What makes excellence?
Well, I think the point here is that we used to talk about ITIL and service management as being the best practice. And the reality is, you know, we've learned it's about good practice, because good practice is something that's learnt over time. through experience. And the ITIL books have been written by people who've applied this stuff within a context, within an environment, and said, do you know what, this is a great way of managing incidents or enabling change or whatever it might be. And that gives us something to work with. That's our starting point. That's the library of information that we use. But the reality is you create your own best practices by applying the information within context, within an environment, and saying, actually, you know, I found some other great things that we can do, better ways of doing that. And the idea is that over time, your best practices that you've created can be incorporated back into the public domain and become the new good practices. So how do you keep on top? You keep on top by using it, learning from it, re-engineering it, and then networking, talking to people about this stuff. You know, there's lots of bodies out there like ITSMF, like the exam institutes, who are always, you know, looking for people to come to their seminars, to do the additional reading, to look on websites and blogs and that kind of thing. That's how. Keep ahead of your game by going to see what the new good practices are all about. Who's talking about what? What's the current buzz? What's the fashion?
Excellent. Well, thanks ever so much for your time this morning. If people want to ask you further questions, where should they come?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We're always open to any requests for advice or information. I'm based at Sysop in Hayward in Lancashire. We have a fantastic website with some super resources on there which are freely available. So come in and certainly have a look at our website, which is www.sysop.co.uk. You'll find all kinds of white papers, some free downloads, and lots of information that will help you to start on your ITIL journey if you like. One other key thing is that we offer a free overview course. It is totally free, but if you want a taster, so you want to start to understand what ITIL and what service management is all about, then have a look at our website, look at the dates, and by all means come along and listen to what our trainers have to say.
Great. Well, thanks again.
Thanks very much.